All right, you know what I'm saying? So, boom! Alrighty. So, today we're going to talk a little bit about the champions of WWE. So, I made a little bit of a mention yesterday about how I don't really even know who the fuck the champions are hardly anymore. I know who the world champions are. I guess that can kind of be considered the bare minimum. Cody's obviously our WWE champion, right? And then it's no longer Gunther. Now we have, what's his name? Seth Rollins now, who's cashed in his money in the bank and become the world heavyweight champion. Good for them. Good for Seth. Good for Cody. If you ask me, these are a couple B tier level champions. I mean, let's be real, bro. In a real wrestling company during a real, you know what I'm saying, wrestling era, neither of these guys would be world champions. Neither of these guys would even sniff the main event scene. They'd be licking Kane's boots, you know what I mean? So, let's kind of go over the history of the World Heavyweight title as it stands right now, the current World Heavyweight title. I'm not really too much a fan of the way they presented this thing thus far. In the very beginning, when they first announced the new World Heavyweight Championship, it was already considered a secondary title to Roman's championship because at the time he had already been champion for like 2 years or 2.5 years or however long. And they just kind of introduced this belt kind of out of the blue. Uh, just kind of as they did the original World Heavyweight title, they introduced it out of the blue. They announced a tournament for it. They announced it's going to be held between Raw and SmackDown superstars, which makes absolutely fucking no sense at all. Because if the title is meant to be a Raw title, then why on earth would you have SmackDown wrestlers also competing in the tournament to win the Raw World Heavyweight title? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so and then in kayfabe too, think about it like this. So remember, the way things went is that if a SmackDown superstar had been the one to win the World Heavyweight title, then they would have went to Raw. So if you're looking at things from a kayfabe perspective, if you're looking at things from like an Adam Pearce or a Nick Aldis perspective, or I guess it would be a Nick Aldis perspective since he's the GM of SmackDown. But why would you want one of your guys to leave your show, and go wrestle for Raw and go wrestle for Raw, I should say, right? Why would you want that to happen? I don't get it. They never explained it. These things just kind of get brushed over, overlooked, whatever you want to call it. So let's fucking move on, right? Let's move on. So they crowned Seth as the original World Heavyweight Champion of this incarnation. I personally wish they would have just brought back the original World Heavyweight title. Maybe they don't want to because Chris Benoit held that title. Maybe so maybe they just want to start fresh, right? But the problem with starting fresh is that your champions have been what? Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, Gunther, Jey Uso. I mean, come on, give me a fucking break, dude. Give me a fucking break. We had Damian Priest. What are any of these guys doing now? What's Damian Priest doing now? Damian Priest might as well be in AEW because I don't even see his ass. You know what I mean? I don't even see his ass. Seth defends the title against a bunch of jabronis, against guys like Finn Balor, Shinsuke Nakamura. Look, I don't hate Finn Balor. I think he's a perfectly fine mid-card hand. I don't even dislike Shinsuke Nakamura. At one point, I was a big fan of Shinsuke Nakamura and Finn Balor for that matter, believe it or not. But nowadays, nobody gives a fuck, right? Nobody gives a fuck about Sami Zayn. Nobody cares about these guys. The World Heavyweight title doesn't mean anything. It's never going to main event at WrestleMania properly. I'm of the belief personally that your world championship should be either with and or involved with the biggest story or the biggest storyline in the company, right? So during the Attitude Era, your champion is going to be The Rock. It's going to be Austin. From time to time, it may be like a Foley or a Triple H or a Taker. But mainly, your belt's going to revolve around those two top guys, bro. During the 80s, you may have like a Macho Man who wins the title. But really, it's Hogan's belt, right? It's Hogan's belt. And nowadays, I feel like that philosophy is just kind of lost. I feel like they're just fine with having world title matches now between like Gunther and Jey Uso at WrestleMania, which is a problem, bro. That is a problem. We went from having people like Shawn Michaels and Triple H and Bill Goldberg and Undertaker and Batista and Edge and John Cena and all these guys who held the original World Heavyweight title to now Gunther, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Jey Uso, Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest. You know, it sounds more like the Impact Championship. It sounds more like the US or the IC title at best, if we're being real here. Speaking of that, who even is the US champion? I don't Solo Sikoa, big deal, right? Big deal. Solo Sikoa, he peaked it what like a year or two ago. He's US champion now, but nobody really cares, right? Nobody really cares. Um, the IC title, I enjoyed Gunther's reign as IC champion. I thought I liked him as this big, like kind of Brock Lesnar level threat, but to the mid card, you know what I mean? To the mid card when he's out there wrestling people of higher stature and caliber, it, to me it just doesn't work. I don't really buy Gunther. I don't buy Jey Uso. I think Jey Uso is a perfectly good mid card champion. Jey Uso would fit right in with Too Cool and Rikishi back in the day. He should be nowhere near a world title of any kind. And that's not hate, that's just real, okay? That's just real. And then when you look to the future, let's talk about this coming WrestleMania, right? Because realistically, nothing's going to happen between now and WrestleMania besides a War Games match, okay? Nobody, not not enough people really care about War Games. It's not this big deal. It's not really this big deal as it should be, or as they try to present it as. War Games is just another match stipulation that comes and goes, if you ask me. But at this coming WrestleMania, who do we have? Uh, Cody is a good chance he might hold the title until WrestleMania. There's a good chance that Seth might hold the title until WrestleMania. Maybe CM Punk wins the Rumble and challenges Seth. But if you ask me, that's boring. That's fucking boring, dude. Who, like, who the fuck is like next up, man? It should honestly be Braun Breaker, if anything, who wins the Rumble. You know, why is not LA Knight challenging for the World Heavyweight title or challenging for the WWE title? Why does Damian Priest not want to win back what he lost? You know, does nobody have any balls here? It's just we have a bunch of people who are just satisfied with chasing after the U.S. title or the IC title like it's some big deal. Being U.S. champion is not a big deal, dude. Being Intercontinental champion is not a big deal. Being a tag team champion is like being fucking speed champion these days. You know what I mean? The only thing that really should matter in the minds of everybody on the roster is being world champion. It doesn't feel like everyone wants to be world champion. It doesn't feel like everyone's putting their name in their hat. It just kind of feels like everyone's dicking around. Everyone's just hanging around. You got people like Rusev, just hanging around, having a couple matches here and there. I mean, what's even the point? You're not gonna attempt to try to win the World Heavyweight Championship. Nobody even tries to make a claim for the WWE Championship. It's like, what does it matter? What's the point? It's not like there's any believable challengers anyway. Who's gonna beat Cody? Who the fuck is gonna beat this guy? Like, for instance, at this year's WrestleMania, why was it not like Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk for the World Heavyweight title? Why was that match in the main event for nothing? You know, you're doing a disservice to your championships. You're doing this a disservice to the guys on your roster because a lot of people should be doing more, could be doing more, but they're just not. You know, um, I'm I'm not really too impressed with the way things are going with this current World Heavyweight title iteration. At least the original World Heavyweight Championship, like I said, was held by legends. At least it actually had some longevity. It had been around for some time. At least there were some legit moments with the original World Heavyweight title, like Rey Mysterio winning, like Benoit winning, um, like even Shawn Michaels winning at the first Elimination Chamber. The original World Heavyweight title was actually the main belt on Raw for several years. It actually had closed a couple WrestleManias, right? But here, this current World Heavyweight title means about as much as some doo-doo. And quite frankly, I'm not impressed, and I don't think you are either. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and piece the fuck up out of here, and I'll catch you in the next one.